Good morning, Jam Fam. For this 2-hour game jam, I decided to make a Sailor Moon wallpaper for a friend. Before we get started, I'd like to say thank you to everyone here and to all of my friends on Twitch. Game design has always been a passion of mine, and I'm very excited to share it with all of you. So when it came to this project, I knew that I wanted to do some cool lighting effects, but I didn't have any experience using the more advanced techniques in Unity. So, the previous day, I spent a couple of hours looking up some good tutorials. The idea that I had for this project was to have a bunch of moons and stars falling from the sky, lighting up an otherwise dark scene. For this I decided to make my own stars and moons, but that wasn't going super well. But after a couple of iterations, I was finally left with something I was pleased with. I have a little bit of experience in Photoshop, but not a ton. It's definitely something that I'd like to get more comfortable with. I have a drawing tablet from when I used to be an artist for the army. But funny enough, it's very awkward to use because half the tablet represents one whole screen. I'll have to find a solution for that. This is the universal render pipeline. There are a lot of amazing things that you can do with this. One of the things that I'd like to dive into one day is creating my own shaders. I've dabbled with this in the past, but I've never done a deep dive. And the universal render pipeline allows for some very impressive 2D shader effects. I'm really happy with this promotional image that we found for Sailor Moon. It's a very dynamic and very expressive scene. The contrast between the dark night sky behind her and her glowing magic wand is ideal for the effect that we're going for. Sadly, here is where I started running into problems with the URP. I had only set up the URP once before, and I was starting to run into problems. Something went wrong when trying to install the URP, and I didn't have a lot of time to debug it, so I decided to go back into the test project that I had made before and start from there. This kind of feels like cheating, but when time is low, you gotta do what you gotta do. In the end, it was just one missing click. I just needed to import one file, and everything would have been fine in the Sailor project. Go figure. But hey, look at that! That looks amazing! I really do love this effect. It's gorgeous. So, I darken the entire scene, and then I decide to try and light up just the staff, or wand. I'm actually not sure what that is. I play around with a couple of different effects. They're all really impressive, stunning, but some of them have issues. This one in particular, there's quite a bit of aliasing on the edges. Also, it kind of gives it a speedy effect, like it's traveling quickly. Then I find the parametric light. OMG. This is just what we needed. With the parametric light, you can change the geometry of the light to whatever you want. I played around with this a little bit after the stream, and I am in love. It's very exciting. I'm planning on doing a lot with it. So I start working on the stars and the moons. I had a little point light, which will light up the scene as it flies through the sky. Kind of like little glittering stardust. I use some of those programmatic animation scripts that I'm so fond of. Just a little constant movement script so that the stars and moons move down and to the left. A little spawn script to tell them, hey, spawn everywhere. And that's a great effect. I love it. I really appreciate how it looks on the dark sky, but I wish it didn't look so bright when it was on her skin and hair. I couldn't find a good way to change that. I'm not sure if there's a blending option or maybe something else that could give me the effect that I'm looking for. After the 2-hour time limit was up, I did go back and tried to cut her out in Photoshop and then put her on top so that the stars fell behind her. That ended up being okay, but it wasn't quite what I wanted. I decided to make our star better because our star was quite poor. One of my viewers suggested, how about a 4-pointed star instead of the 5-pointed? Something thick in the middle and thin on the edges. I was struggling with that though. It was harder to make than I thought it was going to be. I decided it'd be very nice if we had a little pet on screen, like one of those old desktop avatars that we used to have. So I decided to look for Luna and Artemis, and see if I could add them in. There were some pretty nice sprites online ready for you. Artemis here looks a little cross-eyed. A couple of cute cats for your cute little scene. What else can you ask for? Thankfully I had already created a script for sprites that walk around and hang on your screen. I had originally created it for my stream, putting a little Pikachu that walked around on screen and then some other Pokemon, and then I started making a game out of it, and then it got out of hand, so... But the script is great for this. Maybe one day I'll revisit the Pokemon thing, but it's a lot of work. I need to flip the sprites so that I could have left and right sprites. The way this script works is it has a number of arrays. Each array is for a different purpose. One is for walking, one is for running, and then another for sleeping, another for saying hi. This is much faster in my opinion than setting up a actual sprite animation, but that just might be due to my inexperience with the software. Well, just like that, they're walking around, hanging out, and having a good time. One thing I noticed is that when they sit, that they always look left. So eventually I changed that after the stream. I added a new boolean to the software that says if this boolean is checked, then randomize the direction that they're sitting. And guess what? We're back to making a 4-point star again. This one actually looks good, finally. So this was made by just taking a box and then warping it. The warp tool is something that I'd really love to play around with more. The warp tool is powerful and used for a lot of things in Photoshop. What I'd really like to see is a warp tool in Unity. Then we could do animations akin to what you see with VTubers, how the hair is stretched and warped to create a flowing effect. Here I decided to make a mouse trail effect. I wanted the mouse to glitter like the sky does, with little stars and moons flying behind it. Originally I thought this might be the only effect that I had in the scene, but actually it's not my favorite. It looks somewhat cool, but in the end it takes the scene away from clean, and clean is nice. I had an issue here that took me a little bit to figure out. The issue was that the point on screen that the mouse was being said to be at was at a different Z coordinate. So I had to grab only the X and Y coordinates and not the Z coordinate. At this point, somebody in my stream found the Annoy Me with Neon Cats button. For 25 cents, they decided to play that repeatedly, over and over and over again. Sorry. Ooh, look at that. Shiny. I do like that effect. And that was pretty much it. Let's see how it turned out. Here we see the final results of the 2-hour process. In the end, I added a little eye glow. I think this makes a huge difference to the scene. I used this desktop wallpaper for my own for quite a while, and I eventually decided to remove Luna and Artemis, as you can see here. I appreciated the cleaner look that it gave. I also introduced some randomness to the speed of the flying particles. This made the particles feel a little bit more dynamic. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. That's all for today. Thank you, and good night.